Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, November 17, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A judge grants a motion to Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis to stop any leaking of information regarding the trial against Donald Trump and his cohorts who tried to steal the 2020 election in Georgia. Also, one of those individuals, well, the brother, he may be going back to jail for witness intimidation. We'll talk to a former assistant district attorney who's now an attorney there in Atlanta about all of the things happening this week in Fulton County. Folks, runoff election in Louisiana Saturday. We will talk with the head of the Louisiana Democratic Party, who's been under fire for their performance. We'll also talk with the candidate for Secretary of State. Also, folks, a lot of other issues we're focusing on, including a hot topic since Thursday, and that is the shocking accusations against Sean Diddy Combs in an explosive lawsuit filed by a former girlfriend, Cassie. We'll give you those details. And also the NYPD announces he is not under criminal investigation, so you definitely want to check that out. And also, y'all, there's hilarious video. So y'all been hearing all these people talk about how where places you can't take women on first dates. Well, this black mama done had enough. And man, did she post a video that has gone viral calling out a whole bunch of sisters who she said trying to freeload off her son and other men. I'm gonna show that to y'all. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, the Georgia judge presiding over the racketeering trial for Donald Trump and a number of others there has granted a motion from Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis when it comes to the releasing of sensitive discovery materials. Earlier this week, an attorney for one of the defendants admitted that he leaked some video from involving the case, saying it could help him and other defendants. Well, in his order, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee agreed with DA Fonnie Willis that a protective order was necessary to prevent the parties involved from undermining the judicial process. Now, the order comes a day after the leak of key video evidence, again, by a defense attorney for one of Trump's co-defendants. Also, folks, that's happening there, one of the Georgia 19 could head back to jail, have his bond revoked for allegedly threatening and intimidating potential witnesses in the case. Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis cited Harrison Floyd's social media posts and broadcast interviews as violations of his bond agreement not to interfere with witnesses. Willis pointed out Floyd's November 1st post that flagged Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and his aide Gabriel Sterling, who said the Georgia election was conducted without widespread fraud. Floyd's message asked whether they should be more concerned about interfering in elections, perjury before Congress, lying to DA Fani Willis, or all of the above. Willis included the November 6th video distributed on the Conservative Daily podcast that discussed the guilty plea of co-defendant Jenna Ellis. Floyd said Trump was underserved by people like her, and she showed who she really is by pleading guilty. Willis also cited a November 14th post about Freeman, the Georgia election worker. The post questioned whether Freeman sounded pressured during a recording. Why would DA Fani Willis want to hide this from the public? Floyd, who served as a leader for the organization Black Voters for Trump, is charged with conspiracy to solicit false statements and influencing witnesses for allegedly trying to get election worker Ruby Freeman to change her version of how votes were counted at State Farm Arena on election night. He has been free on $100,000 bond. So it's been a whole lot of activity there in Fulton County this week. Joining us right now is a former assistant district attorney who is now in Atlanta, attorney in Atlanta, Jonquel Neal. Glad to have you on the show. So, been kind of busy for the DA this week, Jonquel?
Yes, it has definitely been a busy week as it relates. I mean, we've got leaked evidence, we've got potential failing of following the conditions of bonds. So there's a lot in Fulton County this week. First
off, let's talk about the leaking of the video. I mean, the attorney went in the court and said, yep, I did it.
Right. I mean, he did. That was shocking to hear on the least that he actually would go and do that. But in this particular court, there was, at the time of the case, there was not a protective order in place. And so what a protective order does is it sort of seals evidence or so that certain evidence is not available to the public or additional individuals. However, the district attorney's office in this case, they filed for a blanket protective order in this case. However, it was never ruled upon by the court. And so at this juncture, the leaking of this evidence, which as a result consequently potentially places in danger the other co-defendants in this case, as well as witnesses. So at this point, there had to be an emergency motion filed in order to get a protective order in this case.
I mean, look, clearly the people who are on the other side, those who are standing with Trump and his cohorts, they don't care about the rule of law, especially when their folks are on trial. You've got this dude, Harrison Floyd, you know, who is just been way out there. You know, Willis has secured 3 guilty pleas from 3 of the top folks there, but these other folks, they're making it clear, you know what, we're going to stand with Trump, act like Trump, and likely go down with Trump.
Well, and you know what? You have a point there, Roland, as it relates to Harrison Floyd. I mean, this is serious. I mean, it was a specific condition of his bond that he is not to have any communications about this case. And it is blatantly apparent on Twitter that he has repeatedly put out his version of what the facts of this case. And secondarily, one of the charges in the indictment is about the intimidation of Miss Ruby Freeman. And it is a stay-away order of one of his bond conditions not to intimidate any witnesses in this case. And by repeatedly, not once, not twice, but by repeatedly going on Twitter, making comments and references about Miss Freeman, you know, who has already had to go into hiding, who has made public statements about her safety being in trouble, is problematic. Hence why there is a hearing coming up in this case.
So, well, you know what, I'm telling you, I think that Harrison, I think what he's doing is just using the Donald Trump strategy of let me just act a fool in court and flout it, and let's see what y'all gonna do.
Well, and you know what? You have a good point there. And guess what? The one thing about him is that he is not Donald Trump, and there is a motion to revoke his bond. And there is evidence out there that the conditions of his bond have been violated. And Judge McAfee, I mean, he has the authority that if he finds that there's sufficient evidence that his behavior has been in violation of these bond conditions, he will go back to jail. And he's going to remain there until trial unless there is some kind of new condition. His lawyer can file a motion to reinstate his bond. There's some kind of new evidence or new reason to be able to do so. And so you're absolutely right. This is similar conduct. And in addition to that, right, we've got these postings that are telling his events of how the facts happen in the case. I mean, that's while he may think that that's helpful to his case. It could also be inherently harmful to his case. And so there's a lot of different issues at play here. And by the judge specifically granting this protective order, when it comes to a trial, you know, when you're having a trial in the four walls of a courtroom, the judge makes a determination on what evidence is admissible and inadmissible. Not the lawyers, not the leaking of evidence, and certainly not the defendants charged in this case. And so at this juncture, Judge McAfee is by instituting this protective order, essentially saying he is going to remain the arbiter of what evidence will be admissible in this trial.
My panel, Michael Imhotep, hosts African History Network show out of Detroit. Suzette Speaks, attorney and host the Suzette Speaks show out of Miami. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi. Matt, I'll start with you. Again, these folks don't give a damn about the law. They all are following behind that corrupt, thuggish MAGA leader, Donald Trump.
Yeah, you're right. But I think she's right, and he is not Donald Trump. So if his playbook is to try to play the Trump game, he's shooting himself in the foot because he's not making any fans. Although I will tell you, I might be the dissenting voice on this, but I'd be interested in seeing those exact bond conditions because I don't know that this is violative of bond. It seems to me to be kind of an attenuated argument that he's roundaboutly trying to intimidate these witnesses without something more direct. Generally, when you see witness intimidation, it is direct. Posting something about something a witness may have said, I don't know. Maybe Judge McAfee gets there, but I think there may be some constitutional questions about whether, in fact, that is a motion to revoke bond, unless, as she mentioned, there's an express condition of bond that doesn't allow him to talk about the case, which is still a constitutional question. But in any event, I don't know how far that is going to go. As it relates to the leaking of evidence, that's kind of an interesting question. In this day and age, you know, cases get tried in the court of public opinion well before they ever get tried in an actual court. And the reason I think that's important is because in Georgia, just like here in Texas, there is a trial publicity rule that puts on lawyers a specific duty not to say anything outside of court or disseminate anything outside of court that could have a material effect on the proceeding. So the fact that the lawyer owned up to it and said it was their team, I think could potentially be problematic if the court were to find that that had a material effect on the proceedings. But the problem with that is that the punishment under Georgia law is only a public reprimand. So they really might have thought, look, the juice is worth the squeeze. Go ahead and say what you want to say, poison the jury pool, and hopefully we'll get some people on there who've seen evidence before that evidence comes before the court in the actual trial, and we'll get where we want to go by poisoning witnesses. I don't think they should do that. I don't think that's ethical, but I don't know if the rules really have any real remedy for that dissemination of evidence. So it's all interesting, but as it relates to his bond conditions, I'm not sure. I don't know if they get there with that, but not having read them, I don't know, if that's sufficient under his bond conditions.
Suzette?
Yes, good evening, Roland. Thank you for having me. And I practice in Florida, although I practice civil litigation. So I'll leave it to the criminal lawyers to tell me how procedurally everything works in Georgia. My question for Janquel is, we've heard a lot about these First Amendment protections as it applies to witnesses. Particularly Donald Trump has been one to say that he is within his First Amendment right to be talking about the trial and to be intimidating other witnesses, et cetera. Have we heard this from Harrison Floyd? And do you feel that it applies in this instance, or are there limitations to what he cannot say?
Well, to answer your question, and certainly to go back, it's an explicit condition of the bond condition of Mr. Floyd, and it says on subsection 7 that the defendant shall not communicate in any way, directly or indirectly, about the facts of this case with any person known to him or her to be a witness in this case, except through his or her counsel. And so while, of course, all of us have a First Amendment right of free speech, right? I mean, everyone has the right of free speech. But however, when you are under a court order, that specifically defines and lays out what limitations that there are as it relates to what you can do while you are out on bond.
Michael.
All right, John Quayle. We've seen three of Trump's former attorneys here, Kenneth Chesebro, Jenna Ellis, as well as that crazy woman, Sidney Powell, all plead guilty to various charges. They're part of these 18 co-defendants. Talk about how devastating it is for somebody like Harrison Floyd when you have three of the architects of this conspiracy who are attorneys also, who pled guilty. How damaging could this be to somebody like Harrison Floyd, who is also facing another felony charge as well, previous to this case?
Well, let's be clear. He ain't got no law degree. So they trying to.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is they trying to protect that law degree. John Quayle, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah. So as it relates to, it's my understanding as it relates to what the leaked footage of the evidence that of these proffers that these four co-defendants, I think you asked me about the attorneys specifically, gave, is that number one, that those were kind of inaudible. They were majority inaudible. The specific portions that were audible and that have been reported on by the press, they don't make any specific mention to Harrison Floyd that we know of at this time. So it's very unclear as it relates to what specifically their proffers and what information they have and how that directly impacts Mr. Floyd.
Well, I tell you what, if he better watch out trying to play games because again, you can play with the court all you want to, but they're gonna show you real soon. And he's free right now. His butt could be back in jail. Everybody hold tight 1 second. We come back. Diddy's former girlfriend files an explosive civil lawsuit against him. We'll talk about that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Grow your business or career with Grow with Google's wide range of online courses, digital training, and tools. Gain in-demand job skills with flexible online training programs designed to put you on the fast track to jobs in high-growth fields. No experience is necessary. Learn at your own pace. Complete the online certificate program on your own terms. Stand out to employers, get on a path to in-demand jobs, and connect with top employers who are currently hiring. Take one professional career certificate program or all 6. Earn a Google Career Certificate to prepare for a job in a high-growth field like data analytics, project management, UX design, cybersecurity, and more. All professional career certificate programs must be completed by December 31st, 2024. Scan the QR code to complete the application. There are 1,000 scholarships available. Grow with Google and J. Hood and Associates. Be job ready and qualify for in-demand jobs.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, NYPD says Sean Diddy Combs is not under a secret criminal investigation. That was a result of a police spokesman yesterday saying that was the case. They came back today, said that is not true. This was on the heels of an explosive federal lawsuit filed against him by a former girlfriend. Her name, she goes by Cassie. Her full name is Cassandra Ventura. She filed this lawsuit accusing him of physical rape, abuse, and sex trafficking. The 35-page lawsuit filed in Manhattan's Federal District Court is full of disturbing allegations. It describes Diddy blowing up a man's car, Kid Cudi, after he learned that he was romantically interested in Cassie. The suit says Combs forced her to have sex with male sex workers while he watched, masturbated, and recorded the incident. It also alleges that he encouraged her to drink excessive amounts of alcohol and abuse drugs while first forcing her to get illegal prescription medications for him. She released the following statement about her suit. After years in silence and darkness, I'm finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships. With the expiration of New York's Adult Survivors Act fast approaching, it became clear that this was an opportunity to speak up about the trauma I've experienced and that I will be recovering from for the rest of my life. New York State's Adult Survivors Act allows sexual abuse victims to file civil suits against their alleged assailants after the statute of limitation has expired. Now, Diddy's attorney, Ben Brofman, released this statement. Mr. Combs vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Ms. Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. Despite withdrawing her initial threat, Ms. Ventura has now resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless and outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation and seeking a payday. Now, her attorneys accuse and say that Diddy offered them a 8-figure settlement, but that was turned down. Jonquil, I want to start with you. It's a whole lot there. And again, for the folks out there to understand, this is a civil lawsuit. It's not criminal. And so that's a whole different matter here. But it also lowered the threshold to actually prove the allegations, correct?
Now, I will start off by saying I'm a licensed attorney in Georgia. I'm not licensed in New York. But generally speaking, and certainly in Georgia, the burden of proof in Georgia for a civil case is preponderance of the evidence, whereas a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. So there's a big difference between the two.
Matt, when this dropped, the New York Times dropped this story, and man, it exploded all across social media. Then all of a sudden, the folks began to make other statements, other individuals who accuse Diddy of things in the past. This is one of those stories that it has everything for entertainment media: sex, drugs, abuse, you name it, high-profile individuals, rich folks. And so this is definitely one that people are talking about.
Yeah, it is. And it's tough. Kind of hearkening back to my comment earlier, what we're finding is cases these days are prosecuted in the court of public opinion, especially when it's somebody like a music mogul, Diddy, and somebody who's an artist, a well-known artist like Cassie. I'll say this is a difficult, thing to truly analyze because at the outset, he's not being prosecuted criminally, as you mentioned, but, our legal system is predicated on the idea of innocence until you're proven guilty. This is not a criminal case, but the same principle, right? The lawsuit hasn't been proven yet. So right now, these are merely allegations. However, we also know that there is a lot of abuse that happens in the shadows and that victims and survivors have to be supported because a lot of times things don't get reported. And when they have the courage to report it, we should support them where the allegations are proven. But right now where we are is we merely have allegations that haven't been proven yet. And I think people are interested in these allegations, not only because of who's involved, but because of the subject matter. But I think we have to give them the gravitas that's necessary. These are very serious allegations. And if these things happened, then she was subject to just intolerable abuse, and he should absolutely be held accountable. However, he does have the right, essentially, even in a civil suit, to not be presumed guilty until it's proven. So I think we'll have to wait until what the evidence shows. But I will say, what is strange to me about all of these cases that we discuss is that every one of my clients gets an admonition day one. You don't say a single word anywhere without me about anything at any time. So it is interesting to me that there are this many statements, oftentimes from the parties themselves, because that to me is dangerous if you are in the midst of litigation.
Suzette, it was interesting looking at a lot of these different comments. I saw some people who are saying that, oh, this is a money grab. Well, first of all, when you file a civil lawsuit, there are economic pieces to this. This is also one of those stories historically that rarely gets to the point of filing an actual lawsuit, because typically folks want things like this settled out of court.
Absolutely. I think even the existence of the Survivors Act shows the change of attitudes when it comes to victims or alleged victims of sexual assault or abuse. We see now that people have a deeper understanding that sometimes people do not come out right away. She was in a 10+ year relationship with Mr. Combs. And again, according to her pleading, again, he hasn't filed any responses yet. This is what, in her version of the facts, occurred. So again, I do agree that, again, he's innocent until proven guilty, but I do think the attitudes towards people who have suffered, men and women who have suffered this type of abuse are changing. And that's why we see laws like this being utilized in the civil litigation side to say, you know, I have suffered this type of damage and I would like to be compensated for it. So we'll see as things proceed. I don't know, there could be even a settlement. Sometimes these things don't even make it to trial. But again, we are seeing more of a pattern where folks are a little bit more accepting of people not necessarily, coming out with allegations concurrently as they're going on, and people understanding a little bit more about why a person would still appear on a red carpet or go to an award show or do all these things while still purportedly being involved in such an abusive relationship. But yes, the allegations are scathing. The damage has already been done, I would say, to his reputation. I think it'll be a very tall order to try to recover some of that ground in the court of public opinion. But we have to wait and see what evidence is presented.
Michael, this lawsuit comes, a couple of weeks after L.A. Reid was hit with a lawsuit by former music exec Drew Dixon. This is the story that appeared in the New York Times. And again, this particular act here is what opened the door for. That is the Adult Survivors Act.
Yeah, Roland, this is, I read the article from NBCnews.com as well as the one from the New York Times. And I looked at a lot of these allegations, and right now it is true that these are just allegations, but these are devastating allegations. I know you opened and talked about, these are maybe types of stories that some people like to hear, or they're in entertainment. These are sickening allegations, okay? But once again, this is a civil lawsuit, has to be proved in court. Preponderance of the evidence. So we'll see how this goes. One thing that's interesting for the people who say this was just a money grab, I don't know at this point, but according to one of her attorneys, Douglas Wigder, she turned down an 8-figure settlement. And she's suing apparently for $30 million in damages. But hopefully we get to the bottom of this, whether this is true, false. Some of the allegations are true, others are false. But this is something that you really hate to see.
Jonquil, the thing here, you have a lawsuit filed against Diddy, but as you read this here, listen, it's a whole bunch of people who are in his world who are likely having to lawyer up as well, because they may be called for depositions if they were present for any of these alleged incidents.
Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right. With this specific case, kind of what some of my colleagues have also said on the show tonight is that, what we have in Cassie's case is called a delayed disclosure. And those are extraordinarily common. During my time as a special victims unit prosecutor at the DA's office, where I prosecuted solely rape cases and crimes against women and children, majority of those cases were delayed disclosures. And sometimes some victims don't disclose, some disclose right away, and then some don't disclose for years, right? And then just think about the public nature of what's involved with who she is and who he is. And also to kind of add to what he said about, is this just a money grab? Think about what she knows, what she's going to have to go through by making these very, very public allegations against Diddy, or what he calls himself, ironically, what he calls himself now is Love, which is ironic as it relates to the allegations that she is making against him. And certainly you're absolutely correct as it relates to the individuals that are in his camp or that may have been witnesses. I suspect that if this case does go to trial, that Cassie's attorney are going to subpoena all witnesses, whomever would be able to corroborate some of the things that she's been through.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens next. Jonquil, we certainly appreciate you joining us on today's show. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for having me, Roland. Have a good night.
All right. Got to go to a break. We come back, folks. Lots more to talk about. Louisiana Democrats are trying to save as much as they can, and that is the dignity after blowouts in the primary. They got 3 runoffs tomorrow. Let's see what happens. We'll be talking to one of the candidates for Secretary of State. Plus, we'll be talking with the head of the Louisiana Democratic Party, who was under fire from all quarters in that state. Also, we will talk about one of the things that's happening, and we've had these stories before, where we've talked about land grabs in this country, what is happening to African Americans in many of these places. Well, ProPublica has a particular story that deals with a variety of state universities uprooting black communities. Right. We've seen this all around the country. And we're going to talk to the reporter in this case right here as well. And so it's amazing, again, when you start hearing what happened to black folks, and now we are hearing the results of that. So people talk about black wealth and lack thereof. A lot of that because black land was straight up stolen, the communities were broken up, and homes were sold. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Be sure to support us in what we do. Joining our Bring the Funk fan club, your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. And so when you give, it goes to support our independent journalism, how we broadcast, our staff, you name it. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table, with me, Greg Carr, working under the constant threat of violence. Nearly 50 bomb threats over dozens of HBCU campuses. In 2022, we'll talk to our HBCU Master Teacher Roundtable about the stress, the strain, the frustrating lack of answers, and real community-grounded solutions to the threat of violence we face at HBCUs today. Join us for the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause
Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
ProPublica and the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism did a series detailing how Virginia universities have pushed out black families, sometimes using eminent domain to make room for dormitories, parking lots, laboratories, and other facilities. This process widened the racial gap in home ownership and the loss of black-owned land. One Virginia lawmaker is pushing for a task force to examine the damage that was done to black communities and how much the state universities have displaced African Americans. Delegate Dolores McQuinn joins me now from Richmond. So glad to have you here, Delegate McQuinn. This is, again, I don't think people really understand how significant this is, because when we talk about black wealth, we talk about wealth in this country, it is largely been through home ownership, being able to be passed from one generation to the next. And so when you talk about eminent domain, you're not necessarily getting fair market value for that particular land, and you don't have the ability for it to see it to grow and prosper, build up equity, and not be able to pass on.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, Roland. And let me first of all say thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for all the work that you have done and how you make certain that the unadulterated truth is told about history. But you're absolutely right. For Black people, land ownership was one way of establishing, or a pathway to establishing generational wealth. And that opportunity was taken from us as land was unjustly confiscated from us. And, the truth about the matter, and people say, how did you get engaged in this or involved in this? Oh, I was going from community to community, talking to African Americans and hearing the same story over and over again about land being unfairly confiscated, they getting unfair market price for land that was taken from them for generations that had passed. And I am like, this is once again a miscarriage of justice. And I'm in a position now that I could possibly do something about it, and I refuse to dismiss it. My intention is to continue this conversation. I want to thank those who have brought it to the forefront, and I want to help by certainly putting in legislation to create the task force to look at this particular issue and to see how widespread it is. And of course, I already know that it was very widespread, but we need to think about how do we begin to repair some of the damage that has been done to Black families in Virginia. And you and I both know across this country, the same thing has happened.
Well, absolutely. And the reality is, in many cases, these are state universities. And so We're talking about the state action here. And if it shows that it was used in a negative way, those Black families should be compensated.
Absolutely. In many ways, you're talking about the conspiracy issue. I mean, you had legislators, you had lawmakers, you had individuals with college presidents. it was almost a cahoots that people were in, and to go about again unfairly confiscating this land, and then not thinking that African Americans deserved fair market price for it. But not only that, they deserve to have their land that many of them have worked extremely hard for, and so that they could pass it on to the next generation. One of the things that we have had in our favor as we looked at all we have gone through, from enslavement of Africans through the Reconstruction period to Jim Crow. One thing we've had in our favor, if you had something, the thought was we could pass it on to the next generation. And so many families did not have that opportunity because of what universities did, but not only universities, the Army, you had airports. I mean, any of these institutions that were able to go in and, again, through eminent domain, take this property from Black families, they did that, and including my family. And so what can we do about it? Well, first of all, we certainly need to sit down, at the table, along with many of these individuals who are now seated at places that could bring about a paradigm shift. We need to sit down, have the conversation, and then move forward in terms of how do we bring some form of resolution to what has happened in the past. And not only for this, but other issues as it relates to the way African Americans have been treated and been unable to do anything about people violating you in this manner.
Questions from the panel. I'll start with you, Matt.
Okay, so Delegate McQuinn, thank you for doing this work. I have a case very similar to this, not in the university context, but this happens to our people around the country. So my question to you is this. I know you're putting together a task force, and presumably that task force will have ideas on how to, the reparative remedy. But my thought is this, my question is this. What is the thought about how to compensate those who, for instance, had their houses purchased at below what the appraisers came in, significant percentages, as opposed to those who have lost in perpetuity, basically the equity on property? Because it seems like the difficult thing here is going to be how to figure out how to repair exactly what happened in the past and then the inestimable effects of that going forward. So what thoughts about how the task force may be advised on how to develop a reparative remedy here? Because it seems to be difficult depending on the time and how you frame it.
Yeah, you know what, you're absolutely right. We know that it's going to be a challenge looking at this, and again, seeing how do you bring restoration, how do you repair or reparation. But I think the first step is the direction that we're moving in the state of Virginia of establishing, again, the task force that would look at how families were uprooted, when it happened, how it happened, and then procedurally, there are a multiplicity of things that I think we could start doing in terms of going down this road to bring, again, some restorative justice. There are certainly scholarships. There are ways of, and I know the land may not be able to be replaced, but houses, and making certain that families that have not had access to having these certain kind of opportunities. How do we look at how they have been impacted by it, how generations have been impacted by it, and then again through the task force, many ways of addressing this issue. And I know we're going to have to go back generations, but I think the first step is let's sit down and let's begin to have this conversation, and then make certain that the universities they're at the table. Other legislators are at the table. People on the federal level are at the table. One of the things that I know is being done, that has been done now, President Biden, who's put in $1 billion to look at the way communities have been divided through constructions, through highways that have gone through various communities. Those are, and it may very well be some opportunities there with those funds that he has certainly put in place to be used, this pool of money, to reconnect families and reconnect communities. So I think there are many ways. We have not sit down. This task force has not been established yet, but I am certain, just based on individuals that I've already talked to, they're going to come with many of suggestions in terms of how we address these particular issues.
Suzette?
Thank you again, Delegate McQuinn, for what you're doing. This sounds to me like in the South African model, the Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation commissions that were held, that we need to put into the record of state government what exactly happened. That way we can start moving towards a remedy. My question to you is, what do you think the schools' positions have been or will be? I know in cases such as Georgetown, where they had explicit ties to owning slaves and other institutions, there are several here in Virginia, public and private. I've seen UVA mentioned, Old Dominion and others. Have they put out any responses? Are they open to, I've seen that one president was talking about walking through the old neighborhood. Okay, thank you for the walk. But what are we really doing, and where are they? Are they kind of moving ahead on this issue without the task force? Or what is their current position?
You know, there are some promises here that I think promising, initiative. On Monday, one of the administrators from the university came to me and said, Delegate McQuinn, you know, what you are exploring, we stand with you. As an administrator at the university, we want to do whatever we can to help. And they did inform me that they were already looking into some things, but they said the decisions have been made to make certain that they're at the table to help bring about some kind of resolution. And so that to me is relatively promising, but it remains to be seen what will be done. I'm going to take them at their word, and I'm going to certainly hold everybody accountable in terms of helping us to get to a place where these families feel that there's some kind of restitution.
Michael?
All right, Delegate Dolores McQuinn, thanks for your effort in this. And this is an example of how history is leading towards legislation to help repair this type of damage. I know this is a work in progress, and there have been a series of articles from ProPublica and the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism. But have you heard any estimates about the dollar amount in lost land value that has been stolen from African Americans and maybe lost wealth? Any estimates? And secondly, very quickly, what has been the response in Virginia, where we know in August 1619 those 20-odd Africans were taken into Virginia? What has been the response from Virginians surrounding this revelation?
Well, you know, let me answer the first question. The last question first. The response has been good. The response has been good. And a part of this came about because of families that were represented that are in the district in which I represented, who was bringing to me information about how land was taken, information about them owning land, and even up into the early 2000s, how some land that was a part of the family's land that had been since the emancipation of slavery, and all of a sudden, because resources was not made available and they didn't have the paperwork that they needed, the deeds to the land, that the land was sold. And so this is even something that even within the last 20 years have been happening. And there, you know, many folks have called. They are happy and excited about what we're doing, and they're waiting in anticipation, first of all, to tell their story, but also to make certain that they support these efforts. And we're going to need support from the community about this, for this. But I think that in Virginia, many communities are ready and they're willing to step up into the plate and to share what they can in terms of what has happened. One of the other things that I have done as it relates to this, that was in 2020, a commission was created to look at slavery, the issue of slavery, and the present day impact on African American communities and African Americans, whether it was economically, in housing, in education, every aspect of our lives. And a report will come out actually in January. So this is some ongoing work, and land and housing has been a part of this. And so I'm hoping that that report that comes out will also help lead us or give us some information and support in this effort for this commission. So we're well on our way.
Absolutely. Keep up the good work.
I think Matt had another question.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Delegate McQuinn. Outside of the task force, do you have any plans to make any maybe legislative amendments to Virginia's process of eminent domain? Because the reason I ask that is a lot of times this is done obviously through eminent domain, and eminent domain just requires you show a government purpose. And most often the government is not able to show that purpose here, the public universities, but the land is nonetheless lost. So what, if any, plans do you have to legislatively affect it with a change to eminent domain that may be more protective to disadvantaged, marginalized groups, anything to that effect?
I have not. This will be based on some of the preliminary discussion. I think eminent domain will be certainly one of the components of what has been used in the past. One of those that particular element that's been used to help again unjustly confiscate and unfairly confiscate land. We will be looking at that particular issue. So that's been a part of the discussion as well. We have not come to any, again, decision yet, but certainly that has been discussed.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, that's it?
That's it. No further.
I'm just messing with you. All right, Delegate Dolores, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Keep up the good fight, and let's hopefully our people can get some justice, delayed justice.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, and thank you for this opportunity.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about how the Department of Justice, they're trying to help these jails get their act together. They've been very aggressive at going after jails and prisons to improve the conditions of inmates. We'll tell you about this DOJ initiative when we come back. Also, I got to talk about y'all. This video, y'all been seeing all this stuff on social media. You can't take a woman on the first date to Cheesecake Factory, stupid, and a bunch of other stuff. Well, this black mama just got tired. She got sick and tired of a bunch of this, and so she posted a video. I gotta play it for y'all. I found it to be absolutely hilarious. We'll do that. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, inflation is on the rise. Interest rates are high. Can you still thrive during these uncertain times? On the next Get Wealthy, you're gonna meet a woman who's done just that, living proof of what you need to do to flourish during these uncertain times.
These are times where you take advantage of what's going on. This is how people get rich or richer.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, the Department of Justice, they have launched an initiative that they believe, or they hope will improve jail conditions, is to assist jail administrators in improving safety and standards. It's called the Jails and Justice Support Center. The mission is to help jails create and sustain safe, humane, and effective environments. The program will provide training, technical assistance, and referrals to other federal programs. The DOJ partnered with law enforcement experts to determine what sheriffs and jail administrators need. Now, the DOJ can investigate individual jails when they find patterns and practices that violate constitutional rights. The Jails and Justice Support Center aims to proactively help jail administrators deal with issues on the front end rather than investigating them on the back end, such as this. A fourth former California correctional officer who pled guilty to 6 counts of sexually abusing women inmates and 1 count of making false statements to the U.S. Department of Justice, sentenced to 8 years in prison. Andrew Jones confessed to sexually abusing prisoners between July 2020 and June of 2021 in multiple places in the Federal Correction Institution in Dublin. Jones is one of 8 FCI Dublin employees who have been charged with federal crimes involving sexual misconduct in the past 3 years. We've talked about this a lot, Suzette, how the DOJ has been extremely aggressive, far more so than the Trump administration. And really even, and we said it before, the Civil Rights Division has been, frankly, the most aggressive since Robert Kennedy was Attorney General. And holding these jails and prisons to a higher standard is necessary because for so many years, decades, abuse has been allowed, and because they're inmates, people go, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, we need checks and balances of our prison system. I think a lot of us, when we hear of prison reform, we have thought foremostly about sentencing, about what happens when it comes to the charging of folks, especially of folks of color, Black folks. What are prosecutors now looking at as far as sentence guidelines, et cetera? But we also now must address prison safety. We've heard these harrowing stories coming out, even at Fulton County, people dying of bed bugs and other things that are inhumane and should not be allowed in our prison system. So I want to say kudos to the Department of Justice for trying to give, especially smaller prison systems, larger prison systems, people who don't have necessarily the expertise of how to make sure the safety of each and every inmate is guarded no matter what they're charged with. It's not an addition to their sentence for them to be treated inhumanely. I know here in South Florida, we've had several cases where people were put in hot, scalding showers, burned alive, all these kind of crazy behaviors, as the one that you just talked about out of California in Dublin. This man is basically a serial rapist, if you look at what he's been charged with, and he was a corrections officer. So because we do not have a federal framework from which all of our prisons across the country have to adhere to a certain standard, the Department of Justice is doing what it can to help be a resource. They're saying that this new entity will be a preventative resource. Of course, they do have the authority to go in and investigate when there are complaints at various facilities across our country. But yeah, we have to look at this as a real issue. And if we don't have federal legislation, kudos to the Department of Justice for doing what it can to be a resource to our jails and prisons across this country.
This is the thing for me, Michael. Again, this is not necessarily going to be one of those stories that gets people excited or they say, well, you know, glad to see they're doing it. But this is about accountability. And unfortunately, when we look at a lot of these stories, who's the one likely being abused? African Americans. Don't have Michael there. Let's go to Matt. Matt?
Your analysis is right. But Roland, I'm not going to be impressed unless and until they actually start filing lawsuits and or seek criminal charges against people who are treating people in jail and prison inhumanely. I like this as a political point. I like this.
No. They have. No, that's what I was saying. They have.
Let me tell you. The state of Texas operates 100 prisons. Okay, 100. 55 of those have limited AC. 31 of those have AC throughout the entire prison. 14 have no air conditioning. I just got hired by a family where a 32-year-old woman died in a Texas prison because her cell got over 120 degrees. The reality is jail standards already exist, and I'm glad that the Department of Justice is doing more. I think that's laudable. But they already have a Texas Commission on Jail Standards, and people routinely die in jails and in prisons, and no one is held accountable. And I'm hoping that more so than just lip service, the Department of Justice ramps it up even further, because this is one of the grossest human rights issues, not only in our society, but in the world. When people go to prison, we stop treating them like humans. And until there is really, truly accountability, I won't be impressed by even a little step up, because this is something that happens every day. People die every day. This year in the state of Texas alone, something like 13 people died in prison in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and they knew that those jail cells were not air conditioned. And in many of those instances, guards refused to give them water and other things that they needed to just literally be safe. So I'm hoping that this is the start of a trend where they start taking it more seriously. But this is a human rights issue that goes unaddressed all the time. And
here's the question then. Well, here's the question, and that is, are federal lawsuits being filed there in Texas? I mean, I go back to if you go to my iPad here. This is the famous case. And again, I mean, the reason I can say this man's name, because I swear I heard it on the news dang near my entire life. Federal Judge William Wayne Justice, when he oversaw the Texas prison system, because it was David Ruiz who wrote a handwritten civil rights complaint against the Texas Department of Corrections that led to the federal takeover of the Texas prison system.
Yeah.
Is that happening?
That is the exception to the rule. The actual rule is most generally applied where I file a lawsuit and the county or the state, files a 12B6 motion to try to pour me out saying I didn't file my claim correctly. And the vast majority of those cases get thrown out. It is climbing Mount Everest to vindicate your civil rights, especially in the Fifth Circuit. And while I like those outliers, that's an aberration. The truth is, most of the time something happens to someone in prison or in jail, it is extremely difficult to vindicate those rights. And that's not to say the Department of Justice does not play a very important role. I'm glad that they're doing more than is customarily done. But we are not being honest with ourselves if we act like there is accountability to what happens to prisoners in jails and in prisons. In prisons, it's considerably worse, because in jail, at least, you have your 14th Amendment rights. They're concerned. Maybe you're not convicted. But once you're a convicted prisoner, society doesn't care about you, including the very commissions that exist to make sure you're safe. So hopefully there will be a measurable change following this, and DOJ will really put the pedal to the metal on this.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. Going to a break. We come back. Our Black and Missing of the day. And I got to play this video, y'all, of this black mama just going off over all these take me to the expensive dating joints. So we're going to talk about that and some other news of the day. Don't forget to support us in what we do. Joining our Brina Funk fan club. Senior check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Back in a moment.
Grow your business or career with Grow with Google's wide range of online courses, digital training, and tools. Gain in-demand job skills with flexible online training programs designed to put you on the fast track to jobs in high-growth fields. No experience is necessary. Learn at your own pace. Complete the online certificate program on your own terms. Stand out to employers, get on a path to in-demand jobs, and connect with top employers who are currently hiring. Take one professional career certificate program or all 6. Earn a Google Career Certificate to prepare for a job in a high-growth field like data analytics, project management, UX design, cybersecurity, and more. All professional career certificate programs must be completed by December 31st, 2024. Scan the QR code to complete the application. There are 1,000 scholarships available. Grow with Google and J. Hood and Associates. Be job ready and qualify for in-demand jobs.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, our Black and Missing for the day. Of course, this is a segment that we always focus on because it gets not enough attention from mainstream media. Isaac Price was last seen at the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport on November 11th. The 31-year-old is 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 161 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Isaac is diagnosed with schizophrenia and has been without his medication for the last few days. Anyone with information about Isaac Price is urged to call the Atlanta Police Department at 404-546-4235, 404-546-4235. Folks, in about 12 hours, Louisiana voters begin voting in several statewide runoff races, one closely watched race between Nancy Landry and Gwen Collins Greenup to be Secretary of State. Now, this is not the first time that Greenup has run for this office. Also, keep in mind, Secretary of State is crucially important when we start talking about our elections. She joins us right now. I'm glad to have you here. Gwen, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me.
All right, so you're in this runoff. It is Democrats did not do well in the primary. What are you hoping happens? Because again, we had Gary Chambers on the other day, and I tell you, the black early vote numbers are horrible.
It was horrible, Roland. I think that voter apathy here in Louisiana all around, regardless of race or party, is really low. And that's one of the reasons that I ran. The first time I ran in 2018 is because Louisiana had nearly 3 million registered voters with less than 15% participating in most elections. And our low voter turnout rates allow about 450,000 people to make decisions for 4.6 million Louisianians. And that should concern anyone, regardless of race or party. And that's why I ran, and that's why I'm running again.
As I said, Secretary of State is critically important when we talk about elections. 2024 is the election year, and we've seen a lot of these MAGA Republicans want to take over this position so they can control the election process.
Absolutely. What we have now is Louisiana is facing not only a trifecta, but a trifecta. The Republicans have seized control of our legislature, and if the Secretary of State's position goes untouched into the Republican Party, they will have seized total control of our Louisiana state offices. And I just can't let that happen. Roland, I have built the infrastructure over the past 5 years. I knew what was at stake in 2018. We saw it with Stacey Abrams' race. And then in 2019, I ran again because I saw this coming. And now everyone can see it. And I think that we have to act now. We have another opportunity. We have to get someone in that office that will protect every eligible Louisiana citizen's right to vote. And I'm that person.
Critical areas, where are the places outside of New Orleans where you really need a strong turnout?
Roland, I need it from everywhere. I've ran this race before. The last time I ran, I got in the runoff and I earned 601,126 votes. I got 41% the first and the second time that I ran. First time was a special election. This time, this is the main event. This is serious business. We have a second majority Black congressional district at stake. And when I'm elected in that office, I'll be in the position to concede that we deserve that district. And as an accountant and an attorney, I will get the job done. I will concede and settle that suit so we can get that congressional district before the 2024 race. But I will need votes from Shreveport, Monroe, Lafayette area, from Alexandria area, as well as Mandeville. These are all of our large regions, Jefferson Parish, which is Metairie area. So we need the votes from all over. But more importantly, Roland, I'm the only candidate, the only Democratic candidate other than our governor that has actually pulled votes from rural areas. I was born and raised in a rural parish. I live in Baton Rouge, which is a metropolitan city area, the state capital. And I've built relationships around the state, and I have law offices throughout the state. And that has given me the infrastructure that I need to run a statewide campaign. And we've mounted a good campaign, and now we're trying to close it out and get the win on tomorrow.
All right, then. Well, look, certainly good luck. Appears if you're out there campaigning, doing this from the car, so out there trying to get as many people as possible. Folks, don't forget, voting begins 7 a.m. Central, ends 8 p.m. Central. Be sure to tell your friends and family if you're in Louisiana to get out there and use their power. And I always say, if you don't vote, shut the hell up.
Absolutely, Roland.
Gwen, thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then. I tell you, Suzette, when I hear those numbers, I mean, there's nothing that ticks me off when I hear just those porous numbers. And people love to talk about what we need, what needs to happen, what they should be doing. But those who show up, they're the ones who are deciding who the leaders are.
Absolutely. When I'm looking at some of these numbers, Louisiana, we got to get to it. It's tomorrow. Looking at some of the early voting returns just from a few weeks ago when the governor was at the top of the ticket, we're looking at currently 260,000-ish votes cast in early voting, which is only about 25% of the total electorate, those that are registered to vote. And we're looking at a half decrease from just a few weeks ago. Like half as many people voted early. So we have a lot of people still to get out there. And so there are a lot of voices that we need heard. And as you stated yesterday so eloquently on your show, Roland, there's so many decisions right now that we can't afford to just be on the sideline and hoping and praying and saying that we are going to penalize a certain party, therefore not do anything, because the ball keeps rolling. Power is still in the hands of others who don't have our interests at heart. So they're continuing to make the rules. They're continuing to set the agenda. And again, we are oftentimes not included in that agenda. I just was on Faraji's show, Faraji Muhammad, on the culture. We were talking about Jeff Landry, who is the governor-elect, who is talking about withholding funding from protecting the city of New Orleans from saltwater intrusion until he sees some stronger measures passed against women who were seeking services for termination of pregnancy. Now, this is beyond his scope in terms of what a governor should be doing, but we're seeing all of these very radical and extreme views by folks who are now elected because of the low turnout, right? And again, as she said, a very, very small portion of total citizens there in Louisiana are making the decisions for everyone. So we really have to take that to heart, guys. Tomorrow, when you get out and vote, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, all over, there are a lot of votes left to be cast. And again, she will be a counterweight to Jeff Landry as governor-elect. So we need folks to be responsive and to cast their ballots.
Michael.
You know, Roland, we've talked about Louisiana the past few weeks. We had Omari Hossain on, as well as Gary Chambers. And what I see is that there's a clear disconnect, especially in Louisiana with African Americans, but also in the New York Times article that talked about how close to, I think, about 22% of African Americans say they will vote for Donald Trump. There's a clear disconnect between policies that you claim that you want and actually understanding how to get those policies put in place and who can put those policies in place. So in all this is also connected to understanding history. The conversation that we had with the delegate from Virginia is showing a clear connection between historical events and conditions, and then understanding how to address those conditions that are harming African Americans. So hopefully people, African Americans, turn out on Saturday, but we have to really focus on getting this information out to our people and connecting history, economics, law, and politics.
You know, Matt, look, we talked about this in Texas. 75% of voters 30 and under didn't even vote in 2022. So it's when I hear young folks, you know, complain about this, that, and the other, again, 75%. I mean, the reality is this here. If 25% of those voters actually voted, guess what? Greg Abbott wouldn't be governor. Dan Patrick would be lieutenant governor. If they turn out in the way they should this year, Ted Cruz in 2024 won't get reelected. But saying it is one thing, doing it is another.
That's exactly right. And, you know, I think obviously we're at crisis points around the country, but I think Suzette said it brilliantly that at least in this race in particular, she is needed to be a counterweight to Jeff Landry. So it's not only a matter of we need to come out and vote, which is the obvious premise here. They do. We need to come out and vote, and we need to understand that especially on the local and state level, your votes have a meaningful effect. They always do, but especially there, because if you want that pothole at the end of your street filled, you need to go vote. But in particular, when you're talking about a state that is trying to and has historically diluted the voting power of Black people, you need somebody in the Secretary of State's office who is going to make sure that Black people are not continuously having their right to vote being attacked in these parishes. Because the reality is, we're not talking the 10,000 foot level. We're talking when, you know, Big Mama goes to vote and somebody makes it hard for her to vote, or her provisional ballot doesn't count, or all the ways that happens and it gets combined into diluted power. So this sister is particularly important in Louisiana because you see right now that the Fifth Circuit of all places actually said that their map was unconstitutional and they've got to redraw it. And that shows there's an assault on Black voters and an assault on Black people's participation in democracy. So even more so than normal, it is imperative that Black Louisianans and all people who really care about right happening in our state house or their state house come out to vote tomorrow so that she's in place to protect their rights.
Absolutely. Hold tight 1 second. We come back. We'll talk with the head of the Louisiana Democratic Party. She has been taking lots of incoming fire from folks angry with how Democrats have been losing there. We'll talk to Katie Bernhardt next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Dee Barnes, and this week on The Frequency, we talk about school to prison pipeline, book bans, and representing for women's rights. The group Moms Rising handles all of this. So join me in this conversation with my guest, Monifa Bandelli.
This is white backlash. This is white fear that happens every time Black people in the United States help to walk the United States forward towards what is written on the paper.
Right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, working under the constant threat of violence. Nearly 50 bomb threats over dozens of HBCU campuses. In 2022, we'll talk to our HBCU Master Teacher Roundtable about the stress, the strain, the frustrating lack of answers, and real community-grounded solutions to the threat of violence we face at HBCUs today. Join us for the Black Table, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
It's been a tough election year for Louisiana Democrats. Governor John Bel Edwards, who's a Democrat, term limited, he could not run. Jeff Landry, MAGA Republican, he won. Many thought that race was going to go to a runoff. It did not. He won the majority of votes in that particular jungle primary. Republicans also will have a supermajority in the House and the Senate. They're winning all across the state. There have been a lot of cries for my next guest to resign. Katie Bernhardt heads the Louisiana Democratic Party. Glad to have you here. You've got 3 critical races tomorrow. We just had one of your candidates on for Secretary of State. We had your Treasurer candidate on yesterday. What in the world, what is going on in a state where you have the second largest concentration of Black folks in the country? You can't get them to come out and vote. What's going on with your party?
Well, one, we have a lot of voter apathy this year, and it's been very indicative in the number of people we've seen coming out to vote. A big part of that is the lack of investment in our field operations and our GOTV efforts. We have to up that, but we also have to tell people that it is each of our responsibility to get people out to vote. All of us need to come together and work to get voters out across the state. I wish I could say it was a simple problem and a simple solution, but money does help. There has been a shortage of funding for our candidates this cycle. I'm very proud that we fielded a statewide slate of candidates, but we also have to all come together to work hard to get our candidates out. And that has been a real struggle this year. In particular, I'll say when we had John Bel Edwards on the ticket, we had about $9.8 million come through the party for GOTV efforts. And we've had less than $1 million this cycle contributed by those statewide candidates, which is, I think, a big part of us not having the turnout that we need to see. Although turnout across the board has been very low and troublesome.
But you're the party chair. Did you not see this was coming? If you're tracking fundraising from the end of the 2022 midterm elections up to present day, was the signal being blared? I mean, you've got a Democrat who's in the White House. You've got Democrats who control the United States Senate. You've got Cedric Richmond, who is a critical advisor to the president. You've got Congressman Troy Carter, who's on your executive committee. So what happened here? Everyone knew John Bel Edwards couldn't run again. And also, what did he do? A lot of energy was spent by Democrats to target a fellow Democrat in the New Orleans area. So what were your Democrats doing, and who was saying, hey, we're going to need money if we're going to try to win and keep Republicans from completely controlling the state?
Well, that's a multi-part question there. Obviously, we have wonderful leadership within our party. I think we're very fortunate to have our senior advisor to the DNC and Cedric Richmond, Congressman Carter, representing us on the federal level. I'm very proud of the work they do and their contributions to our party. I think that it was a complicated election year. I think that we had Sean Wilson at the top of the ticket, who is clearly a very, very qualified candidate for governor. But the funding from within state was just simply not going to be there in the primary. Even John Bel Edwards struggled in state in his primary elections. The money needed to come nationally, and that was a real struggle. Look, Sean Wilson got in with less than a year on the clock. And that is a struggle to begin with, right? We had someone that had been preparing for many, many years to run for governor in Jeff Landry. So we were behind the clock, and we worked tirelessly to get someone to run for governor. It was not an easy lift. It was not an easy lift to get people to run statewide in the conditions that we have in Louisiana right now. But I'm grateful that the people that stepped up to run did run, and they're working hard across the state. We do need people to contribute to our statewide candidates.
I'm confused. If everyone knew that John Bel Edwards couldn't run again, so you had 4 years to find somebody, why was it so hard to find somebody to run for the #1 office in the state?
I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for that, right? One, it's a difficult job. Also, the fact that we also tend to go back and forth. We go Republican, Democrat. And people did not want to run in the race that we had with Jeff Landry running for many years with a whole lot of money. He was very well equipped for this and very well prepared for this. We were behind on that before we ever got started, and we knew it. But we did have Sean Wilson step up, and like I said, I'm very, very grateful he did. He was a tremendously qualified candidate, definitely had the best resume of the bunch, and would have been a great administrator for the state. But that doesn't mean that all the money comes right away, and it doesn't mean that the national money comes. Some of the things that national donors are looking for is head-to-head polls with us winning, which is very hard to do when you get in as late as he did.
When you look at how poorly, not just when it came to one race, but multiple races, normally when that happens, heads have to roll. People have been calling for you to step down. After tomorrow's runoff, are you going to quit? Are you going to resign and bring in new leadership? Because I hear everything that you're saying, but it still boggles my mind to have the number of African Americans in your state, the second largest concentration of black voters in the country, having no apparatus to turn those folks out. The reality is if you don't get significant black turnout, no Democrat is going to win. And then for Republicans to take control of the entire state apparatus under your watch, why would folks have faith that you could lead them in 2024?
Well, that's a multi-part question too there. But I will say, one, I'm not going anywhere and I'm not quitting. And I think anyone who knows me knows that I'm not quitting. More importantly, we have a great apparatus here at the party, but it's not a free apparatus. We have great mechanisms in place to turn out Democratic voters. Again, it's not free. We got 3 million people voting in the state of Louisiana, or we should. They don't all vote. But we are not going to be able to reach each of those voters with the message that we have without money. And we need to have all of our people working to get voters out.
Right, but so how do you get it? So how do you get it? You mean you're the state chair? That's your job. Look, I mean your job is to figure out how to go get the money. Okay. Well, how do you do it?
Our job is to make sure that we have a solid apparatus for our candidates to plug into and to utilize. And we do have that. And I'm very proud of that. One of the things that we've done, we had, I think, 19 organizing meetings every Monday for everyone who wants to be part of this movement and to get people out to vote. We've had dozens of churches we've visited. We have over 22 partner organizations we're working with. We have volunteer apparatus.
I'm confused because you said we have a great apparatus, but in order for us to use the apparatus, we need money. So, which means that, fine, your apparatus, but you got to raise money. Again, party chair, look, I've covered politics my entire life. At the end of the day, if you ain't got money, all you got is a whole bunch of hot air. So the question is, if you're saying it was just so hard to raise money, why should Democrats in Louisiana have faith in you as a party chair if looking at the election results this year? I don't care if you're in a county or a state, these were horrible results.
Absolutely. So, one, we had the best fundraising year in a non-election year in party history last year under my leadership and under me doing the fundraising, and basically just me. We did not have a professional fundraiser. We did not have a finance director. That it was me calling people, me hosting events, and me going to large donors and getting those contributions. The issue here now is when you have a coordinated campaign, which is what funds the GOTV effort, that is a contribution from our statewide candidates and other candidates across the state. And again, John Beau Edwards contributed nearly $10 million to that effort when he ran for governor. That amount of funding was not there for those candidates this cycle. The coordinated campaign is a tool used by candidates. And those candidates that are running right now have not gotten the investment they need to utilize that mechanism.
How much did John Beau Edwards raise this year? I'm just curious. How much did he raise?
I don't know how much John Beau has raised this year. I know how much he raised for his governor's race.
No, I got you. But I'm saying that, but okay, again, this is sort of, if you're Governor John Beau Edwards and Democrats put you in office and he only won by 30,000 votes last time, did he help your party out this year?
So John Beau Edwards has helped our party. He has been someone who's been very supportive. Now,
how much did he raise? I mean, did he raise? I'm just being straight. Listen, did he raise money for the Louisiana Democratic Party in this year's election cycle? And if so, how much?
He did not directly raise money.
Okay, so isn't that a problem that the sitting governor who's going out, who's a Democrat, didn't raise money, so it leaves the impression that, hell, what the hell, I'm out, I don't care about the party. I mean, you use the power of the incumbency to do that, so sounds to me like you had absolute two hands tied behind your back when the sitting governor, who is a member of your party, wasn't out there raising money for the rest of the party.
Well, I also know that I'm not here to speak for the governor or for any of his actions, but I will say he supported our candidates directly, and I want everyone to support our candidates directly.
Well, I'm sorry, when you say support directly, does that mean money or does that mean endorsements?
That means endorsements, but also fundraisers. So I know he hosted a series of fundraisers for Sean Wilson, immediately endorsed him, and as well for our Attorney General's candidate and for our Treasurer's candidate.
So, okay, again.
And I don't think the burden is on any one person, and that's what I'm saying. We have to come together. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of talk, but a lot of action is needed here.
I understand that, but the burden's on leadership. And look, I've been in and around the campaign since I was 7. My parents worked on campaigns, ran phone banks. I stood outside of polling places when I was 9 and 10 years old, handing out stuff. So frankly, I've lived and breathed this for 40 years. They worked on polls, been precinct judges, all that sort of stuff. So you name it, I've seen it. And what I'm still just confused by, I'm confused by having a Democrat who's sitting in the governor's mansion, the power of incumbency, and knowing full well you're running against a MAGA Republican who has higher aspirations. Yes, he raised a lot of money, but again, that was just this inability to really rally folks around. And so I'm still asking, if I'm in Louisiana, my maternal grandparents born and raised in Louisiana, and if I'm in Louisiana and I'm sitting here looking at the results, I'm going, I ain't got faith in the leadership. I need new leadership to figure this thing out. So if you don't win races tomorrow, what are you going to do? Because I know what it feels like being in a state where Republicans have complete control, being a native of Texas. And so right now, Republicans have complete control of Louisiana.
So what we are doing right now is building a bench of candidates, and the same thing we've been doing for several years, but it is a process, and it takes people all working together. And I'm glad for the people we do have. We have tremendous leadership within our party. We have some great leaders up and down our executive committee and in our state central committee that are working across the state. We also overcame the challenge of not having legislative races in most of our majority-minority seats. That was a tremendous burden for us this cycle. We did not have that issue 4 years ago, and that's something that has definitely affected us. Baton Rouge and Orleans Parish had very, very few legislative races this cycle. That is fortunate for those that sit in those seats. They didn't have to run campaigns, but it's very detrimental to the overall ticket, because that's a bunch of people that are not working to get their constituents out that would also vote for the other people on the ballot. We saw that very, very clearly in Orleans. We had no Senate races in Orleans. We only had 2 House races in all of Orleans Parish, which was a tremendous impact on the voter turnout in Orleans.
Was it also was it a mistake for the governor and other prominent Democrats in Louisiana to target a progressive Democrat who crushed the competition? I mean, she won with 67% of the vote. I would think everybody who voted for her opponent got egg on their face by wasting all of their time, energy, and money when clearly the voters in that district wanted her. Again, that sort of energy to me takes away from the other critical races. Was that a mistake by your fellow Democrats to target one of your own?
I think that that's just an inevitability in our party right now. The way our districts are drawn, we have packed Democrats into as few districts as humanly possible. And
that's because Republicans have been in control of redistricting.
For many years. I mean, we had some great leaders who also serve in party leadership who tried very hard to make sure Black voters were not disenfranchised, even more than they have been historically. But those efforts were not successful because the Republicans controlled the legislature during this redistricting cycle that we went through. We are so optimistic that the courts will deem those maps unconstitutional, and we will have another shot at that. We stood to pick up several seats in both the House and the Senate had those maps been drawn differently. Not to mention our congressional maps, which we still have some optimism where we'll get fair representation there on the federal level.
Last question, and I sort of asked it earlier, but I'll ask it again. You said you're not going anywhere. Why should a Democratic voter in Louisiana have faith in you to remain as party chair?
Well, I think that anyone who's been involved and not sitting on the outskirts that has been directly involved knows exactly how hard we have worked and what we are doing to build a long-term successful Democratic Party here in Louisiana. And I encourage all of the chatter, all of the conversations that are having to cease the talking and to join in the efforts. We have a whole lot of work that needs to be done, and we have a lot of ways to plug you in. Like I said, we've had about 20 weekly meetings thus far since this election cycle got started, and would be very, very welcoming to anyone who wants to get involved and be part of the solution here to get more Democrats elected statewide and to start building the bench and getting ready for the elections that we have in 2024.
All right, Katie Bernhardt, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Tell your friends and family to go vote in Louisiana.
All right, going to a break. We come back. I'll chat with my panel about this and some other stuff as well. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, Dave. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, inflation is on the rise. Interest rates are high. Can you still thrive during these uncertain times? On the next Get Wealthy, you're gonna meet a woman who's done just that, living proof of what you need to do to flourish during these uncertain times.
These are times where you take advantage of what's going on. This is how people get rich or richer.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
This is your boy, Earthquake.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, I'll start with you, Michael. In Florida, after they had loss after loss, they just got sick and tired of leadership and threw them out. Nikki Fried is now the state party chair. Again, where I come from, if you got bludgeoned, heads got to roll.
Yeah, Roland, I agree. But this whole conversation, and probably the past 3 or 4 weeks, you've been doing a lot of focus on the Louisiana elections, and I've been on some of those shows where we have discussed it. But most recently, this conversation with Katie Bernhardt, Louisiana Democratic chair, is a clear example of why, in my assessment, we have to have and continue to build a black political infrastructure like organizations like Black Voters Matter that educate African Americans on history, economic law, and politics. And we cannot depend upon, even though the Democratic Party does have a responsibility, we cannot solely depend upon them to educate us. I don't have any faith in them educating us, largely white people educating African Americans to win a political game that white people created for them to win. We can use the Democratic Party as a tool to accomplish what we want, but we can't look at them as a savior. And I'm not saying anybody here on the panel is looking at them as a savior, but we cannot look at them as a savior. So we have to continue to finance various organizations like you have highlighted on this show. But this conversation right here is a perfect example of why we have to have our own political infrastructure.
See, the thing here, as I listen to the answers there, this real simple, Matt. This real simple. If you do not have a successful black strategy in Louisiana, you ain't winning nothing. Black people are the backbone of the Democratic Party in any state. And so what I didn't hear, now maybe y'all can correct me. I did not actually hear from Katie Bernhardt, we need to have a very deliberate and specific black turnout plan if we are going to compete. This ain't hard. If black folks turn out at those numbers, they guaranteed to lose.
You're spot on, Roland, but I think the best person to really edify us on this is Gary Chambers Jr. I think you should get him on the line right now.
We've had Gary on. We had him on this week.
But I think he's the perfect person to talk about not only his experience there, but exactly what's happening on the ground in Louisiana. And I don't think you're wrong. I think first, heads will roll, and they should roll, because the leadership is the entity who's always accountable when things don't go right. But she did not say she had a black agenda. And even more so than that, we know there have been accusations as recently as last year that the people wanted a candidate, and she worked actively against that. So, she sounded to me like a politician saying a lot of things that really didn't matter, didn't mean anything, and wasn't answering a lot of your questions. But I really think what would be the best for the people is to hear from a candidate and somebody who's in that party right now to add some insight on this and some contour on this, because we're speaking from the outside looking in, and he can tell us what's really happening on the ground.
No, we speaking from what we can see, Suzette, and that is they got their asses mollywopped. And again, numbers don't lie. If you go back and examine the race, John Bel Edwards, conservative Democrat, yes, he got support in rural Louisiana, but he was able to win with a robust black turnout. If you are the Democratic Party chair in any state in America, maybe except Vermont, Rhode Island, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Maine, let me see, am I missing? Hell, you gotta have a black turnout plan in Iowa, and even though we make up about 4% there. The point there is you are DOA as a Democrat without black people. And what I should have heard was not just this sort of general, we have an apparatus. No, what I should have been told on a show that targets black people, Katie Bernhardt should have said, after this election, I am convening a meeting of black leadership in order for us to go into the community to do listening sessions to find out where we are screwing this up and getting it wrong. That's what I should have heard. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. Funny that you mentioned that. I was just a part of one of those here in Miami last week, where DNC chairman Jamie Harrison came down with the Biden campaign chairwoman, Julia Chavez, to listen to Black Miamians. And it was a diaspora group. About 50 of us sat there and they listened. And we talked about what is going on the ground and what it's going to take to be successful in 2024. And if you don't switch it up, you're not going to get black people to turn out. They won't vote for Republicans in Florida, but they will sit at home. So what I listened to just now, and again, I know the chair here in Florida, so I know it's a very difficult task to run the Democratic Party, especially on what she has described as a lack of fundraising. And my question to her would have been, what are you going to do if you don't have $10 million from John Bel Edwards next year during the presidential campaign? Because that doesn't seem like it is something that will be kind of recurring at this point. So what are their plans to get those small dollar donors? And I would suspect that what we vocalized to Jamie Harrison was that there are very few points that we can very specifically attribute to a Biden agenda that speaks to black people. And I know you spoke about it last night, where oftentimes we are part of the bigger tapestry as far as the agenda, such as the diabetes drugs moving down to $35, et cetera, that affect all of us. But specifically, black people happen to be disproportionately affected by that. I do think there's a problem clearly with messaging, however, to their Black voters, or Black voters possibly feeling like their needs and agenda are being met. I was looking back at who actually ran for the Louisiana Democratic Party chair before this, and it was a colleague of mine, Edward Ted James, who in 2020 was running for their Democratic Party chair, and it was endorsed by John Bel Edwards, but backed out. I think there's this machine, if you will, that people, I'm an outsider, so I don't know, people have written about, people allude to, that's in Louisiana, that just doesn't seem to have the ear of the folks on the ground, but it's shooting them in the foot. And if they don't get their act together for 2024, we're going to risk losing a lot more. But hopefully people do not become discouraged. Hopefully some of those down ballot races will help Black turnout come 2024. But I didn't really hear a plan for what happens in her fundraising plan if you do not get $10 million from the former governor. And again, it doesn't seem like she will. So I think, the incubators of Black leadership, as Michael M. Hopetep just pointed out, are either not being tapped into, not being cultivated, not being listened to. There's something going on there that we really need, again, maybe a local expert to talk a little bit about. We've talked about it on The Culture with Faraj Muhammad as well. But there's a disconnect that needs to be addressed in a very seriously dire way for us to get things right in Louisiana.
Here's the whole deal. This is real simple. I've covered politics long enough that, first of all, we've had Gary Chambers on, and I don't have to talk to somebody local again. I could remove Louisiana and plug in any state: Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and my answer is going to be the same. If you are not turning out Black people, you do not need to be in power. That means you do not have a strategy, you do not have a message, you do not have the relationships with the Black community. That right there is a telltale sign. So they better fix their problem in Louisiana, or they can get used to being in the minority, having zero power for a very, very long time. Hold tight 1 second, y'all. We come back. I got to talk about this Black mama who about tired of y'all out here trying to make all these brothers, sisters take y'all to these expensive restaurants. Homegirl just went there. I got to play this video, y'all. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Faraj Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Dee Barnes, and this week on The Frequency, we talk about school to prison pipeline, book
bans, and representing for women's rights. The group Moms Rising handles all of this. So join me in this conversation with my guest, Monifa Bandelli.
This is white backlash. This is white fear that happens every time Black people in the United States help to walk the United States forward towards what is written on the paper.
Right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretending to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
All right, y'all. So, been a whole lot of online chatter about, you know, best places to go on a first date, and because that was this viral video when this sister got an attitude because a dude took her to Cheesecake Factory. I don't see a damn problem with Cheesecake Factory, okay? And then all the people like, no, don't do no coffee dates, don't do this. First of all, I think it's too many damn rules. Okay, if your ass ain't got nobody, you might want to get rid of all these damn rules, because maybe that's why your ass ain't got nobody. So, yeah, I said it. So, I saw this video, y'all, last week, and I kept seeing it again. And this black mama did a video with her son, and let's just say she's a straight up black mama, and she wasn't having none of it. Watch this.
And him about the first restaurant he gonna take you to. What's the last restaurant your daddy took you to? Because you shouldn't be coming to him to be your daddy. That's not his role. It's a first date. I want y'all to bring that down to level 3. Y'all way on 10 with this foolishness and want to embarrass somebody. My second question is, have you ever been anywhere? Where do you take yourself? Let me see your checkbook registry. Let me log into your bank account and see what you feed yourself on a regular basis. Where do you take yourself for lunch or dinner? That's the next question I want you to answer. And then the third thing about this, come on back over here, because I need you to understand what time it is. Right. A real lady is going to be there for the purpose of what it's for. She's not looking for food because she's hungry that she can't afford so she can take it to go and get a doggy bag. I'm going to wrap this up to go. Why? You ain't going to have food tomorrow? That's a poverty mindset. So a first date, again, is to get to know the person, to hang out, have fun. Y'all should be laughing and talking. It don't need to be a steakhouse. We don't even know if you worth a steak. You might just be worth a piece of bread. So ladies, young ladies, grow up. Get some maturity about yourself. Y'all buying titties, lashes, booties, and everything else. And you want somebody else to feed you. Save your money, stop buying your body, and put it to the side so you can have some food. That's not a man's responsibility. Now, once you dating a man, and once he get to know you, and y'all vibing, and he want to take you to a nice restaurant, guess what that means? You well deserving of that. He think enough about you to make a reservation. But some of you don't have reservations about your mouth. You talk bad, you disrespectful, you ghetto, you trifling, you don't have an income that substantiates what you want this man to do. You don't reserve being lazy. You full out lazy. You have no reservations on that. But you want the men to make a reservation for a restaurant, but you don't reserve what's between your legs. You passing it out like candy. You rated E for everybody.
Oh, my God.
Oh, first of all, her son was like, damn, mama. First of all, you know that's your mama. So let's not act like that's the first time you heard your mama go off. But Suzette, that was a sermon she preached right there.
First of all, how old is the son? That is so embarrassing. If that's like a grown man,
hey,
that's terrible.
No, it's not.
It's not right.
No, it's not. Listen, black mom, let me be real clear. I don't care how old you might be. you got a black mama, she gonna remain a black mama. So your ass could be 24, 44, 54. Your mama gonna let you know exactly how she feel.
Wow. Well, I do feel a little, I guess, torn. She wasn't wrong in a lot of what she said, but not every woman is like that. So maybe she needs to talk to her son about his standards and who he's choosing, because there are women who really value getting to know someone and wanting something more interpersonal, directly related to a connection, not just, because they're hungry, they are going out with men. Now, there are people that's running game, and she's right. I guess she could have been more specifically directing her comments to those folks, but all women are not the same. All Black women are not the same. So I guess seeing this as another viral opportunity to talk bad about us as if we're a monolith and that we're all gold diggers or food diggers, apparently. But I do think, it's an interesting conversation. We had it on The Culture. I was made fun of because I don't happen to like Golden Corral, right? So they were mad that I was like, I wouldn't want to be.
What the hell is wrong with you?
But I would go though. I wouldn't really enjoy it, but I would go. But I wouldn't.
Girl, they got enough damn food. It's something at the Golden Corral your ass gonna like. You got 85,000 choices.
Full of grease. Full of grease. Oh my goodness.
First of all, everything ain't full of grease. Everything at Golden Corral is not full of grease. See, now your ass being bougie. See, you want to go to all the spots where they got them damn green flowers and shit behind you, take selfies and everything. They ain't got that at Golden Corral.
And kale and arugula and other things.
Yeah, right. Ain't no damn kale at the Golden Corral. See, right there. The moment they bring that kale bullshit up, Matt, then they trying to be bougie.
Well,
I wouldn't ever correct a man, but I would probably just go with a mindset of, all right, will probably be the last time I go here with you.
Oh, see, right there. See, already. You already said could be the last time. Great dude, but you tripping because it's Golden Corral. See, passing up good brothers. Matt, go ahead, Matt.
Well, all I was going to say, Roland, is I know you used to go on dates to Woolworths for 55 cents.
No, actually, I didn't, because where I was from, there were no Woolworths. That's first of all. Second of all, you can try your ageism. That shit don't work with me because we know your ass go get them hot dogs from 7-Eleven because you were so broke. But go on right ahead with your point. Go ahead. Don't start.
You're right, because I got 3 kids. So at this point, I'm going to do whatever I can to get
there you go. See, don't start none, ain't going to be none, Matt.
Well, I'm going to fry you for being old because you long in the tooth. But
first of all, don't hate because I'm good looking, I got age, and I'm paid. But go ahead with your answer.
Oh, happy belated, by the way, with your old ass.
I don't want to hear that. Go ahead with your young bald ass. But go ahead.
Here's my thought. Look, I think this is really indicative of a lot of what we're seeing on social media in terms of selfishness. So the real issue here is all these people putting out standards that they allegedly have to have. But the reality of it is, if you're there to enjoy somebody's company, first off, the Cheesecake Factory is a good enough restaurant. Who cares that much, number one? And number two, it's all virtue signaling, right? It's all this idea of I'm going to put out that I'm too good for this thing or that thing, when in reality, if you want to get to know people, a Cheesecake Factory is a perfect place to do that. I think this mom was a little off base in some respects. I think Suzette's right. I think, if she feels she needs to make this video, we cannot paint either group as monoliths, meaning, women or men or anybody who's talking about their, quote, standards for dating. But I think the larger principle is that we are having conversations these days where we're virtue signaling this selfishness that, to me, is not indicative of who we are as a people or what is constructive for people. And the reality is, if you want to enjoy somebody's company, go out and enjoy their company, and don't front like you won't go sit down and order something at the Cheesecake Factory.
See, the thing here, Michael, and first of all, whenever you see these videos, people understand, clearly the person is not saying everybody. So I never make that assumption. But I do think, though, that it's important to have these conversations because it comes back to a mindset. There are folk who sit here and trip like they ain't going to the Golden Corral, as opposed to, because last I checked, and again, whether you're a man or a woman, I want to get to know who this person is.
Right.
That's the whole deal. So I want to talk to you, hear from you. Like, I really don't understand the people who say, I ain't going on no coffee date because that's too cheap. I know a sister who said, oh, hell yeah, I want to go on a coffee date because if I ain't vibing with this person, I want to be able to get the hell out. I ain't trying to spend a long time at a nice restaurant. And so I think people, these are the people who are caught up, to me, in what's external, as opposed to, let me find out who this person is, who they are. And so if you're the kind of person who like, yo, I need to be going to a 5-star restaurant on a first date, yeah, you can keep moving.
Yeah, Roland, so I've seen, this has become a social media sensation, and I've been following it very little, but I did look at the list of where some women said they didn't want to go. Now, I was trying to find the sample size of these women. I was trying to find the educational level of these women. I was trying to find the income level of these women. I still haven't been able to find that. And the video that you showed of the African-American mother, I saw part of that on Facebook. One of my Facebook friends posted that. And I've never dated those type of women that she talked about. They do exist. Some of those women probably think Sukihana and Sexy Red are motivational speakers. Those type of women do exist. But when we talk about dating, the point of it is not to get a meal. The point of it is to get to know the person that you are going on a date with. And you should have been talking on the phone also, getting to know that person, seeing that you have things in common as well. So, I've said this a number of times before, and at the root of at the foundation of our communities, the foundation of having strong African-American communities, are the relationships between African-American men and women, okay? I'm going to say that again, that relationships between African-American men and women. If those relationships are in disarray, that's the faulty foundation that everything else is built upon. So hopefully this will blow over. Maybe you can bring on a certified relationship expert to delve deeper into this and give us some pointers and give us also some ideas, some really good ideas on first dates to get to know the person.
How about this? On the first date, stop taking pictures of your damn food. How about that? I'm telling you, I'm telling you right now, there are some restaurants in New York and some other places that actually have forbidden flashes and video, stuff along those lines. I'm serious. When you go out to eat, this ain't about a date. You go out to eat today. Go out to eat with a group of people. Go out to eat with a group of people. And you be at the table, you like, are we on the Food Network show right now? Like, why in the hell are all the cameras out? I'm telling you, people are so... Jamal Bryant had a video when his daughter asked him to come to FAMU homecoming, and then he got tricked because he didn't realize that it was an effort to get him to pay for everything. And so he says, so he goes there and he's taking all his daughter's friends and all them out. And then he's like, how you posted all these photos of the food and everything, and I ain't in one photo, I paid for everything. But I'm telling you, what you have is, and I know you thought I was joking about Suzette's backdrop, but I want y'all to understand. I want y'all to be perceptive. If you go to a lot of restaurants today, you're going to see backdrops like that. So what you now have is all these restaurants, okay, they're playing to the social media crowd. Okay, so you go places and they've got stuff in the bathrooms, the backdrops, everything is about videos and photos. Y'all, this is real basic. If you trying to find somebody taking pictures and videos of the food and the backdrops for the selfies ain't got nothing to do with you trying to connect with an individual. And so I just think a lot of people need to figure out what it is they're trying to do. You want to be a food critic, then go right ahead. But if you actually trying to find somebody to be with, you know what? Why don't you spend more time focusing on what you got to say to that person as opposed to what you're going to order off the menu? To me, that's just real basic. Just kind of basic. All right. That's it for us. What you clapping at, Suzette?
I agree.
And let me check right now. Hold on. Let's see. How many golden corrals in Miami?
No.
Hell yeah. That's right. That's right. Anybody, y'all want to take Suzette out? First option, Golden Corral. And if she say no, that's when you go. See? Bougie right there. Keep moving. All right. We got to go.
Happy belated birthday, Roland.
Say what?
Yes,
happy belated birthday. I sent you a text message, but happy belated birthday also.
I appreciate it. Lots of friends. Hold up to that, because I've been having a bunch of November people. I did my man Gary Howard yesterday. Let's see. My homegirl Tanya Clark, her birthday is today. I did shout out Adina Howard the other day. It was her birthday. Let's see here. It's like I say, it's a whole bunch of people. Oh, my man Ronnie DeVoe of New Edition. I'm surprised Carol didn't remember that one. You're slacking, since she's supposed to be the biggest New Edition fan. So today is Ronnie DeVoe's birthday. So Ronnie DeVoe, happy birthday. Listen up, y'all. This came in late tomorrow. Memphis, University of Memphis. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow for your 15th annual men's conference. And so I'm the luncheon speaker, so I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow on the campus of the University of Memphis. And so I'll see y'all then. Folks, that's it. Don't forget, support us in what we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your support is critical to our work here. You can see your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $sign RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And by the way, YouTube people, y'all been slow today. Hit the damn like button. We haven't even hit 1,000 likes yet, and so y'all need to hurry up. I'm sitting at 8:47. That makes no sense. Y'all been over here sitting here commenting all doggone day. So hurry up, hit that like button so we can hit 1,000 before I get out of here. Again. So it's at 8:51, so we need 149, so get going. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, don't forget, you can watch us on 4 fast platforms, our 24-hour streaming channel. You can watch us on Amazon News. Go to Amazon Fire, go to Amazon News. Tell Alexa play news from the Black Star Network. Also, Plex TV, check us out there. You can check us out on Amazon Freevee. Also, Amazon Prime Video. You go to their live TV grid. We're right there along with the other news channels as well. Lastly, please get a book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Folks, that's it. I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. Until then. Ho!